What it do, NMA crew? Amen. Listen, today I just finished the movie Cube. It's not called The Cube. It's a horror movie from the late 90s that was the best I've seen in a long time. It was amazing. The premise is a group of people just wake up in a cube. There's a door on all four surrounding walls, one on the floor and one on the ceiling, making six total. And that's it. They're sitting to that situation, and then they have to do what they have to do. They obviously want to get out. They want to survive, but there's no exposition. It's just you're thrown directly into it. The first scene is this incredible display of practical effects with this guy getting literally minced, and then you just a pile of meat cubes that just tumbles to the floor to set the stage and to set the stakes for the movie right up front. And then it's fast paced, all gas, no breaks from there. It's tense dynamics. It's tense moments of suspense on like whether are these people going to die right now. It's extremely, honestly, I would straight up say thought provoking. Dialogue. It's just constantly throwing so many things at you. And one of the interesting and extremely impressive things I heard about the production of this movie is that it was actually shot in one room, apparently. Which, I mean, I guess makes sense now that I'm thinking about it, but like, holy shit, for an entire movie shot in essentially exclusively one room, it managed to be very distinct and have personality imbued into so many of the shots. And I think that comes down to the very, very intentional blocking of the characters within the frame. The way they framed each other in the foreground and the background and the people's acting. I will admit it wasn't the most consistent. There were like some really high highs and some pretty low lows with the acting. I didn't love all of it. But the highs were absolutely there. There were so many like fucking iconic moments in there, especially with the main character, the cop. And it was just very intentional with the directing and the blocking because the only variables in each scene they had were the characters. So all they had to work with was with giving each shot identity was the characters, and they really went outside the box and did something that not a lot of other series do in terms of just like how consistently intentional the blocking was. So I was really impressed by that. It was, it's weird because it's a philosophical movie in some sense because these people, they wake up in this cube. It is this endlessly shifting geometric prison of a logic puzzle. Every room is gate kept by these extremely intricate mathematical equations, sometimes even pushing the limits of human intelligence and ability to be able to solve them. They had to find like literally the most brilliant savant on the planet who was essentially so smart in one area that he's incapable of participating in society due to a total just lack of like any other faculty. Like when you start to get to the very, very end of the bell curve, of course you're going to find very odd people who don't fit into the norm and the middle of like society and acceptable, like what everybody's used to communicating with and what every system put in place is trying to account for. So there was that guy. There's a lot of arcs going on here, but all right, before I get sidetracked, it is a very philosophical story because it's this shifting, seemingly impossible narrative where everybody's just looking for a way out. And there's this scene towards the middle where this guy's like, listen, there is no way out. And that was when the cop was able to coax it out of him that he actually knew something. Proving the cops, just like acumen in terms of psychologically profiling people right away, which was one of his strengths as a character, even though his weaknesses eventually brought him down and turned him into the ultimate villain of the story. But he was like, listen, we're here. The cop's like, there has to be a point. What's the point? What's the motive here? He's like, listen, there is no point. We're here. That's the point. It doesn't have a point unless we're here. So we gave it a point. It's just a random bit of thing that like floated into existence. He mentions that it was like a intricate web of intertwined like contractors and people who are getting paid by other people to make this thing, and it could not be drawn back to one like head honcho. Like maybe somebody did at one point, but it's just totally been lost, and it's just this thing that exists for no purpose, for no meaning in time, and people are just placed inside of it because that's the only way to prove that it was worth anything in the first place. And obviously that can be seen as a very straightforward microcosm for, life in general, the search for meaning, the development of human intelligentsia to the point of it crippling us and our ability to function as people emotionally. You can see this with, of course, like the rise of AI and just generally other advancements in humanity that have not actually worked to the benefit of our emotional and even health, well-being in a lot of ways. But because the guy who gets out is the idiot. I mean, what do you call him? The savant, the autist. The autist is the only guy who ends up getting out. And he like walks out into the holy light at the end of the movie, and it's this extremely powerful scene. Like, at the risk of sounding pretentious, I didn't know what emotion to describe it with except for profound. I was conflicted. It was emotionally layered in a way where I was like, damn, I have to sit back and think about this. It's definitely very thought-provoking. The character arcs are amazing, and that's sort of the way I would kind of want to frame approaching the theming and messaging of this movie. So the main character is this cop guy. He's really good at, reading people psychologically. He tries to calm everybody down. He's a leader in the moment, but at the end of the day, once people start disobeying his orders, and once he can't establish it, and he feels like other people are dragging him down and he can't do things his way, he's not willing to place trust in them. And he crashes out and essentially becomes the villain of the story, which is very interesting. He initially clashes most with, the nihilist guy, because he's like, listen, you don't have a function in this world, and you feel like that just is a reflection of the existential reality that we're living in because of your personal ego and vendetta and your broken sense of self-worth and all that stuff. But in reality, I have shit to do. I have shit that's in front of me. I'm going to go do it. And he's saying that's what the guy who killed himself in the first act said. Like, that's what the guy said before he just walked into certain death. Like, you can do that. You certainly won't find any enlightenment that way, so just don't pretend like you will. And that was the first major clash. But then he started to clash with the doctor girl because he wanted to get rid of the idiot guy, the idiot genius. And she wanted to keep him. She said, leave that innocent boy alone. We will take him with us. We can't lose our humanity. It's the last thing we have. The one thing we have is social and emotionally enriching connection with each other. It's the only thing they haven't taken away from us. It's like a human necessity. And we cannot sacrifice that by just leaving this guy behind because you think he's going to bring us down. But the cop is obviously like thinking about it rationally. Like, listen, I got to get home to my kids. I'm not willing to take any risks. I'm doing what I want to do and you can come with me or you can't. I'm leaving. But then he also couldn't leave because he had to place faith in the super genius girl. But at the same time, when she wasn't following his orders, he tried to, inflict violence on her and threaten her to do it, which ended up causing a bunch of tension within the group. He started beating people up. Things started getting crazy. He dropped the hippie doctor girl off a fucking cliff, basically. And his main disagreement with her was she was talking about like, hey, listen, where we're at, this has to be the work of a government. Only a high up politician could think up. What the fuck just happened? I just heard the creepiest noise from my Discord. Could think up something this deranged, this inhuman. Only somebody so detached from basic human interaction, which is sort of what she championed, despite being alone, which the cop went at her for. He was like, listen, you don't have kids, you don't have a family, and you try to take it out on everybody else. You're saying, woe is me. You're pointing the finger at everybody and how their relationships aren't functional and how they're not being fair to other people because you don't have anybody that you need to be fair to. You look after people who are sick. You look after people who are hurt because it's simple, and you're able to do that in this sort of unbalanced exchange. But at the end of the day, you're an unessential worker who benefits from the very systems that you sit there like bitching about all day, is what he was saying. And she was sitting here saying, basically, she called him a Nazi, like straight up. She said, get off of that innocent boy, you Nazi, because he was trying to basically kill him. When the autistic guy almost directly led to his death because of just his extreme autism. He was like, listen, I'm going to kill this guy right now. And she said, get off of him. You don't have any right to kill him. And ultimately that was the right idea. I mean, he was the only guy who made it out. And infighting was the eventual cause of doom for the overwhelming majority of these characters. But, it's so interesting because it's like, there's all these red herrings of and they're trying to use Chekhov's gun, and it's generally pretty effective to find out all right, why are we put here? Why do we have a doctor? Why do we have an escape artist? Why do we have a cop? Why do we have a mathematician girl, why did she keep her glasses? Like, it was like all these things. And then at the end of the day, it's like it all still kind of is entirely open-ended and pointless. It's like the guy who can't even like communicate properly reached the holy light at the end of it, which I don't even know how to read into that yet. And then everybody else basically just died from infighting and having their egos clash with each other. I guess it's because he effectively was like pure id. He really didn't have an ego. He wasn't stuck inside the matrix. He was already outside the cube. But it's interesting because there was like the nihilistic guy who effectively was in a very similar situation, though by the end of it, he had found something to live for in terms of protecting other people. But I mean, people like that are always just kind of already looking to throw their life away for some sort of mightier cause. So I don't really know about that. It's almost like because he was told by the cop, the cop was like, at the beginning, he's like, listen, be a man, stand by your philosophy. If you're so nihilistic, if you think nothing means anything, if you decide to build this and you don't feel any remorse for it, go kill yourself in that other room right now. Prove to me that you believe what you're saying or shut up. And he didn't. And he was kind of being snarky and dragging his feet for the rest of the time until the cop started like literally beating the shit out of him. And then eventually he sacrificed himself to save the autistic guy, which is very, very interesting that was his arc. The girl's arc was sort of like that of one of self-worth. She was like, listen, I'm a loser. I do blah, blah, blah with my friends. She mentioned at some point feeling like she was the problem in society since she was born, which makes sense. She was like an extremely self-conscious personality, but then once she was put into this situation where she was indispensable to everybody, because she was the math genius who was like the most important person in every clearing, every room, she was like, holy shit, like I'm I'm kind of the shit here. But she never really lost sight of her humanity. She just sort of came into her own as a person and was eventually shut down by like the cop character's like blind rage by the end of it. And his total frustration with the insubordinates of everybody around him, because he's thinking, listen, I go back to the office, I take barking orders from my higher-ups all day long. I deal with all these people who have all their fucking mental hang-ups, who have no families, who just like sit there benefiting from the government, doing all this stuff. And I'm the one who cleans up all the shit, like I do a hard job. It's thankless. I still got people bitching at me. I still got like all this shit. And he's like, listen, at some point it's more of like a subconscious feeling of being owed the other end of it. It's like, listen, I'm complicit with my part on the totem pole. I trust those above me and I do what I'm told, and it's frustrating as hell. And I understand that, but I haven't broken to it. Now you have to listen to me because I am logical. I know that about myself. I am somebody who is a leader. I'm somebody in the police force, like all this stuff. And it was sort of her eventual insubordinance as she grew confidence in herself, which never really turned into arrogance, that led to her ultimate demise. So it really wasn't her fault. Hers was the only arc that didn't necessarily logically end in its own destruction, the way the cop did, the way the nihilist did, the way the hippie girl did. I don't exactly know what she meant, but before she died, she was like, "You made a believer out of me, nihilist guy." It's like, what? What are we talking about here? But she was basically, she was like, listen, it's the military-industrial complex. And then the guy's like, listen, rich people buy boats. They don't sit around scheming about how to maniacally manipulate every poor person. You're living in a conspiracy theory realm because you don't have anything going on in your life and you're too far gone. Shut up. And he said it very, very, very rudely. It was kind of an epic monologue. It was an epic diatribe mogging moment. But yeah, he was basically on all that stuff. She was saying, basically, pleading for them to hold on to their humanity at all costs. And at the end of the day, once again, he kind of just screwed everybody over. Though with her, it was ultimately her... I guess she was a little... Yeah, I don't really know. She was straight up just killed. Like, her downfall was not any development in her character arc, per se. But, I don't know. Maybe I'm missing some sort of context with why she said what she said to the nihilistic guy. But I don't necessarily know that it was her being too trusting, because her thing was that she was, like, not trusting of authority at all. But then when it came to interpersonal things, she was far too trusting. And maybe that's why it happened. Maybe that's why... it came down to what it came down to because she sacrificed herself. She was like, listen, I'll go out there. It's my turn. And the cop guy was like, okay, all right. And then he let her fall. He dropped her, in fact. So she was ultimately too interpersonally trusting of people who were a little bit more concerned with their own ego, I suppose. And then, the one guy who wasn't absorbed in his own ego, who was just pure instinct, is the guy who lives. So that's Cube, not The Cube. It's fascinating. It's a philosophical microcosm for so many things in humanity and the human condition. But ultimately, I'm not going to simplify the message to it just being don't overthink it. But at the same time, one of the primary and most important moments being the final shot of the movie showed the one character who wouldn't overthink it being the one to ultimately prosper, at least in some respect, though there was narrative punctuality and satisfaction given to, for example, the nihilist guy when he died. That was like the completing of a character arc that felt like it was satisfying, that felt like he improved and got to a place that he needed to be. But at the same time, he died. Like, in the most literal respect, the only person who truly prospered was him. So, I mean, yeah, it's interesting. It's easy to overthink, but at the same time, there's a lot to think about. It's just this giant shifting matrix of a puzzle that could occupy you for all of time without you ever being able to escape it. It's maddening. It's thrilling. The practical effects are stunning and amazing. The tension in each scene is amazing. The blocking, the directing is great. The soundtrack is very subdued, but when it does go on, it goes fucking crazy. Yeah, this movie is a dope horror movie, y'all. Everybody should go check it out. It's called Cube. I'm going to watch the sequel soon.